Today we're talking about how to start a fitness blog in 2024. And when I've said fitness blog, I've probably got personal trainers and gym owners out there listening in whose ears are exploding and they're probably terrified right now because it is a scary thing. Writing is a scary thing. James, do you remember back in the day when we did the Strength Matters magazine? I did a very, very small bit of writing about the podcast, and God, it used to send me into cold sweats some months, but I'd always put it off, which would not be a good thing. Do you remember those days?
I do remember those days. Now just think how many articles I've written over the years compared to that tiny little paragraph.
Well, exactly. So you are the blogging man, and we will come on to you in a moment. But yeah, I have done a little bit. It did scare me. I found it tough. So that's my very basic experience. But Andrew, I'm going to come to you first. What's your experience of blogging? Because you have done some blogging in the past as well.
I have, and my first blogging exploits, I think, were when I initially started in the PT industry back in 2004. I was part-time, didn't have a lot of money to invest in marketing side of things, but I already at that stage knew that writing relevant content that would resonate with my target audience was one way to go. And I started off not the greatest, but once I built out a framework and I understood a little bit more about what would work and what would resonate with my audience, that's where I improved. And it's like any skill, the more you do it, the better you get over time.
It's a scary thing, isn't it? Putting yourself out there, writing something and putting yourself out there, especially in 2002, there was no such thing as social media, was there? But now, you could get criticism flying, or what?
Or blogs, pretty much.
Or blogs, yeah, exactly. But now, obviously, everything is online, content is available immediately. So, like I said, it may be sending some people into cold sweats thinking about this and feeling a little bit overwhelmed. So let's break it down, James. Where do they start?
So I think before they learn where to start, let's just make sure they're clear about one thing. 97% of content on Google does not get found organically. That means only 3% of the web pages in the world can get found by anybody at any one time. That is a scary statistic. And you've also got to remember that when you're writing, you're not just writing for yourself and in the hope that it's going to get found. You've got to write in a way that can get found on Google, because you're wasting your time and effort if you don't. And that's a really important concept to understand. Not only have you got to understand where to write and how to write and what you're going to write about, but you've got to make sure you're doing it with the Google mindset in place so you can get found on Google easily, because you want all this hard work to get found, to help promote your business and help people out there. And that's the whole purpose of blog writing, is to help people, right? So you've got to bear that in mind. So there's lots of things to think about here, but just bear that in mind and keep that top of mind. So like, how do I get my stuff found is probably one of the most important things you do at a starting point. So,
okay, that sounds complex. Let's break it down.
It is, and it will be more complex. Let's just go start from the first things first. First things first, you need a website, okay? And you need a domain name. So what's your website? What's your name, your blog name? What's your website name? That's what you're going to have. So ideally, if you're a personal trainer, gym owner, a coach, you have your own personal name, or you have your company name as the domain name, and you create the blog on this. A blog, in my personal opinion, needs to be created on WordPress, right? I know a lot of people will use Wix or Squarespace because it's the simpler, easier, the most marketed option. But having it on WordPress gives you the tools to help it get found. That's what we call SEO, search engine optimization strategies, right? Because if you do it on Wix.
So what's wrong with Wix and Squarespace, in case trainers listening in have a Wix or Squarespace website?
Yet you don't have the same functionality to help it get found. Because without going too technical, you've got to write it in a language and use code to help Google understand it and read it better. Whereas Wix and Squarespace, they say they do it, but they really don't to the highest level. So it's like saying a beginner who needs to lose weight, any workout plan will work for them, right? That's the idea. But somebody who's more advanced, who wants a more athletic training plan, working towards specific athletic goals, they need a more advanced training plan. And this is what we're talking about here. It's the more advanced training plan for you and your blog to get it going. So the first things first, WordPress has got to be your domain. It's where your website's going to be domain and it's got to be hosted. And we've got to build it around there because it's all the functionality in the world to help make it happen. So that's the first thing in terms of that, right? So, and how you do that, well, it's a bit more technical. We'll maybe do a blog at some point, how to find certain things and where to get it. But That's the first starting point on WordPress. Secondly, I think this is what people forget about, is who are they writing for? What is their client avatar? Who is their market? Who are they trying to help? Because if you're trying to help everybody, you'll help nobody. That's a really important concept, right? So you've got to be super specific. I think it's like 96 billion pages.
I think especially nowadays, isn't that right? It's changed more. You've got to give me more niche nowadays, don't you think?
Yes, I think you do, or be ultra specific as what you're doing. So I think like something 96 billion pages. I think there's like 4 billion bits of content that gets created on Google every day because of all the social media and everything. So just bear that in mind. It's a lot of content, and you're in a sea of noise. So you've got to be ultra specific. So what is your client avatar? Who are you trying to help? And what are the questions they want answering? And that's a really important thing, because you've got to start writing blogs, not just for yourself. You've got to write blogs for what people are asking and searching for, right? To help you get traction on your blog, to help people find you in the first place, right? So yes, you can do your personal blogs and your thought process here, but if you're standing in the wood with no one around you, no one's going to hear you, right? It's exactly that same principle here now. So start off with targeting the low-hanging fruit in terms of what people are searching for that you'd like to answer, to help them, to give them a flavour of who you are. And then you can start doing more personal type blogging pieces later down the line. So that is important.
Yeah, and that leads into, sorry, Josh, that leads into a discussion we were having with our VIPs yesterday, James, that we were outlining their marketing strategy as we were working on the pillar foundational pieces of their content. And the challenge of what they wanted to write about, as opposed to when we researched the data and what they actually should be writing about, was there was a distance between the two, and we had to overcome the wants of what they wanted to, rather than let's focus on the needs and the actual terms that people were searching for. So get that right, and you'll certainly have a better chance of being in that 3% of content that's being found on Google.
And I was just going to say, very briefly, what are some quick keys to identifying your target audience?
Quick keys for your target audience. For me, it's looking at, if you've already got a client base, who are those clients that you enjoy working with? Are they business professionals? Are they over 40s? Are they women looking to get back into shape after childbirth? If you've got a client type that you enjoy working with, all that's a good starting point.
Cool. Fantastic. So, James, they've got a WordPress website. They've identified their target audience. They know what questions they should be answering. What's next?
Good question. Start writing. Now, I'm going to say this now because we're living in the world of AI. Everyone is thinking they can just get everything written in AI, with AI. Don't. Google is now caught up with this, and they now know they can identify if you're writing using AI. It's as simple as that. So please don't use ChatGPT. You can use it to help create a framework for what you're going to write about, but don't use AI to write the whole thing. That's just cheap, generic crap. It's like this crap. It's like selling crap product. It's like selling crap training plans that are just generic. You don't want to do that. You want to create meaningful, engaging content. Yes, you can use AI to help structure and like give you ideas and like bullet points to what to write about, but start writing from your own perspective, right? You've got to do that. People want to hear your opinion, your expertise and authority. So you've got to write from that perspective going forward in 2024 to be found, essentially. So don't use AI as the first thing.
Brilliant. What about copywriters? Anything like that? Like, reaching out on Fiverr or anything. Is that worth doing, or should you just do it yourself to start with?
Do it yourself. If you're going to be serious about this, it's got to come for you. It's got to be, your blog has got to come from your heart. It's got to be stuff that you're keen and you're knowledgeable about. Okay, so you can't outsource this to begin with. You can outsource other stuff later on, or find great copywriters or copyers who share the same values and share the same expertise, but to begin with, it's got to come from you, no matter what happens here. So AI to set the outline, start writing the blogs based on what you do, but do it with tools around you, such as Grammarly or the Hemingway app, to help you write better and more succinctly. And that's the most important thing, is that you've got to consider the fact that you're writing, you're going to be grammatically correct. This is where Grammarly comes in. It's free. Hemingway app as well helps you write more concisely. And you've got to write, so people can understand it. So writing a blog is different to writing a book. So writing a book, you've got long paragraphs, long sentences, whereas here you want a maximum of 2 to 3 lines tops per paragraph, essentially, on a blog post. And you want to include lots of images, lots of links out to things, all these types of things you've got to think about here to break it down and make it easily digestible for people to consume because they haven't got that much time. Now, when it comes to this as well, you've got to think about content length. Most blog posts that rank number 1 on Google have an average length of about 2,500 words. Just think about that, okay? You can't just write a blog for 400 words. Well, people are just going to skim read that. Now, you could do a list of stuff maybe for 400 words or something useful, but if you want an in-depth blog, it's going to be about 2,500 words. Now, I'm probably scaring a lot of people here. That's a lot of words. I don't know how to do this. You get quicker. Like anything, you get better with your skill set over time. Like when I first started doing blogs, it took me like a day and a half, maybe even 3 days to write them. Whereas now I know what I'm doing, I've got a structure in place, I can get it done within a couple of hours. A couple of hours may seem like a lot, but if you get it right and you know the skill set to make it happen, guess what's going to happen? It's going to be evergreen content to drive people to you, so it saves you time and money in the long haul, particularly when you're doing Facebook ads, as an example.
Oh, cool. And the last key, come on to publishing consistently. Why is that important?
Yeah, really important, because you've got to get into a rhythm of things. People have got to come to expect what you're doing, and also to show Google that you are a trusted authority site, you've got to be consistent. Consistency is the most important thing in posting on social media. It's also the most important thing on publishing on your blog for Google. So here's my recommendation. If you were to start a blog today and you wanted to get going first, I would get into a habit of posting twice a day for the first 3 months. Twice a day, sorry, not twice a day, that's social media. Twice a week. Twice a week for the first 3 months. All right? Twice a week for the first 2 months. It does 2 things. 1, it's signaling to Google your legit blogging business. 2, it's getting you into the habit to write faster. Right? You want to get into the habit of writing faster. Then after 3 months, if you're okay with 2 times a week, great. But then dial it back maybe to once a week. And then over time, what you're doing is then you've got such a bank of stuff. You can then over 12 months, you then have to go back and edit all of them and update things because it saves you time and effort. So blogging becomes an effortless piece long term because you're more like editing and updating things as opposed to writing new stuff all the time. You don't have to write new stuff. You can just update and edit things when your thoughts and opinions change on certain aspects. So get yourself into a consistent publishing schedule so people know, like, and trust you. You can start working towards that. It gets you faster at writing and it builds this relationship with people. They come to expect this type of thing. And then finally, on top of this, when you first start out, make sure you're taking people's email addresses to make sure that they can book, sign up for your newsletter, sign up for your whatever it is, your free lead magnet that hopefully you can create, so that you can start building this relationship. So every time you post a blog, you can email to them so they can click and read it. So it gets more people reading it. That's the first thing, is building up your newsletter subscriber list alongside writing your blogs. And that's a big mistake that people often make. They don't capture people's data.
Fantastic. There we go. So that is it. Get your best writing trousers on. Please don't forget to rate, review and subscribe. If you want to find out what's holding you back from growing your fitness business and get yourself a free website audit, go to strengthmatters.com/audit.